What's up guys, this is Yasin, and today we're going to be going over number 67 Paradise Smasher. This is a floodgate that honestly I would have been really happy if it got preemptively banned. And just in case you didn't know what it does, let me read it out for you. So it requires a 2+ level for 5 monsters, but you're typically always going to be summoning this with 3 level 5s. Once per turn during your main phase 1, you can detach 2 materials from this card. Each player rolls a 6-sided die twice, and the player with a higher total cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack until the end of the next turn. And not being able to declare an attack actually does matter. Makes it so that if your opponent has a bunch of bodies, well, you know, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to run over them. And then once per turn, if either player rolls a 6-sided die or dice while this card has material, you can treat one of the results as 7. So in other words, this is one of the very few situations in the world where the goal is actually to lose the dice roll, because if you roll a 12 and then your opponent rolls a 2, you lose the game pretty much on the spot, because it's going to backfire on you, and then you won't be able to use like a monster effects or declare an attack until the end of the next turn. The probability of like failing with this is around like 4%, I think. It's like a 3.86% chance of the card just doing nothing, a 91.90% chance of you actually winning. And in case you roll like a 9, a 10, 11, or 12, you might actually lose, because if your opponent has a 1 and a 1, yeah, sure, you can treat one of the results as a 7, but then your opponent still has like 8 in total. And then obviously, since you have like 9 or more, then you're the loser. So yeah, if there's like a huge gap, then this is where you're screwed. But if the gap is not really big between like both totals, then this is where you will pretty much always be winning with Paradise Smasher. Now again, like I said, this card, you're only going to be really seeing it when you chummy your opponent, because it's actually kind of difficult to summon. Since it is a light monster, you cannot summon it with the effects of Joe Cool and Lantern of, you know, summoning themselves with another monster, because they have the drawback of preventing the monsters that they are, themselves as well as the monster they summon from being used as material for the excessive summon of a light monster. So yeah, these cards, they can facilitate other rank 5 plays such as Ripper, which is really good because it can negate another hand trap. So if you let's say like chummy your opponent and then you also have Nibiru, it's not gonna work since you can negate the Nibiru. The cards that you're really looking for are Izuna as well as Lupus, but Izuna is a very reactive card because you can only like special summon it from the hand whenever your opponent uses a monster effect. Like during the turn your opponent activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, and then Lupus is pretty much like the exact same thing. So, and then you still need to find like another level 5 monster that does not have the drawback of Lantern and Joe Cool. So sometimes you have to like normal summon a K9 or overlay your 2 level 5 monsters for the Conquery, and then revive back a monster, etc. So yeah, we'll be showing some combos for this. We're going to be going very briefly over the hand traps that work and do not work. So obviously, if you Fua your opponent is going to be in a really good position if he has like Joe Cool and another monster, because it's very easy to not give too many draws to Fua. However, Pearlia hurts a lot because if you want to keep extending, you have to keep summoning your monsters from the hand over and over. You have like 4 summons from the hand potentially, like Joe Cool, Lantern, Izuna, and Lupus. Drawing 4 cards with Pearlia actually makes sense, whereas Fua usually doesn't really draw more than like 2 cards. Valor and Imperm on the Paradise Smasher look like it really does a lot, but it actually does nothing, because if your Lupus is, like, if you have Lupus as an Xyz material, so obviously if you chubby your opponent and then the Izuna Foolish Barrel effect resolves, then your opponent just revives back the Lupus, and then with another monster he makes the Paradise Smasher using these 3 monsters, and then obviously any monster that is summoned with Lupus cannot be targeted by card effects. And that's the reason why relying on cards like Valor, Imperm, Mourner, etc., they're not going to be doing too much. However, cards like Ghost Ogre that do not target could actually be insanely good against Paradise Smasher, because even though you're not negating anything, what you're doing is that you're making it so that your opponent does not have the 3rd material, meaning that he cannot like traffic the results. And if he can't do that, then the probability of winning the dice roll, or I guess losing the dice roll, basically winning like the fight, is 44.37%, which is not a lot, honestly. It's actually less than 50. So Ghost Ogre could really save you, and Goblin Biker, Boom, Mac is pretty much the exact same thing. I mean, yeah, your opponent's Paradise Smasher will stay on the field, but it's not gonna have the 3rd material, which really does matter. And then Nibiru is also extremely good. You can summon it, like you can use it on your opponent's like the summon of Paradise Smasher, but obviously, like I said, Ripper can negate it, which is unfortunate. Holy Sue is another card that can destroy Paradise Smasher by, you know, I mean, either like stealing it or summoning the Raisin to destroy it. So if you're playing K9 Vanquish Soul, you have a lot of defensive cards, because Izuna is also extremely good, can send Lupus and then make the Nash Knight. And then if you're playing Dragon Tail, Femina into like Altharion, bounce back a couple of cards, or do other things, that's also extremely good. The last thing I wanted to go over on like the theory is like Bamboos and Calcium Shadow. This is actually kind of decent. Like if you want to make a Paradise Smasher with only 2 level 5 monsters, and then with 2 level 3s you make this, and then you transfer the materials to Paradise Smasher, it could work, especially if you keep looping this over and over every single turn. It could be broken, but it's not super realistic because the decks that are playing Paradise Smasher are like K9 Vanquish Soul as well as K9 Crystron. And I can promise you that they don't really care about Bambuze Concept Shadow. They're not playing that. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into some combos where we demonstrate the real power level of the Paradise Smasher lock through chummies, so Fua as well as Perilia. Okay, so in this situation, I have 2 Jokuls, and I'm going to be playing through my opponent's Fua as well as many potential hand traps as possible. So in this situation, I just got Fua'd like on the summon of my 2 level 5 monsters because my opponent is really scared of me going to Ripper and then negating like another hand trap and then, you know, searching and then pretty much like popping off through like everything that my opponent has. So yeah, in this situation, I'm going to be searching for the Izuna there, and then I overlay into Ripper, and then Ripper affect the search, I get ashed, I can negate it, and then yeah, search the Lantern, set the quick play spell card so that even if my Paradise Smasher combo does not resolve, at least this is 2 disruptions with X First Liberation into the Werewolf and then destroy something, and then Werewolf, look at a hand, banish something, etc. So it's not too bad. But yeah, anyway, summon the Izuna, send the Lupus, revive itself back, and then normal summon the Lantern, and then Lantern effect to search the case of K9, and then go into Paradise Smasher, detach 2, and then since there is still the Lupus underneath, it cannot be targeted, so if my opponent drew like an Imperm, it will be completely useless. So unless your opponent has like Imperm for the Ripper, as well as like Nibiru for the Paradise Smasher, there are pretty much like no real ways of like stopping this once it hits the field. You can like prevent your opponent from kind of getting the bodies, but Izuna being able to foolish the Ripper, Lupus really hurts like crazy. So you're pretty much gonna have to like deal with this regardless. And also you get follow-up because you're searching Jokul, and then next turn you can just like summon it and then effect search like another Lantern if you play another like Izuna or whatever. You can do a bunch of cool things. So yeah, this was a very simple 2-card combo through like Fua, and really just demonstrates that Fua is not like the perfect hand trap against K9 decks, just because of like this very easy solution. And it's also this is also very generic. It's not like it's only pure K9 that can do this. Pretty much every K9 based strategy can easily go into this through Fua, like I mean by giving 2 draws and by being able to pretty much deal with like Ash and Imperm if they were used very early. Okay, now we are going to have to deal with Perilia, which I think is infinitely more dangerous for this deck because you're going to be getting your draws way earlier on, and it's going to be applying way more pressure. And honestly, if you have to deal with a lot of Imperms, then you might actually need to draw like another K9 monster in your hand, otherwise it might not work. Obviously, you're going to be going Jokul, summon another level 5 monster. It's not like Jokul and Jokul and Jokul, right? This is like a... It's really just to show you how flexible it is, because it can be like the same monster over and over and it still works. But yeah, obviously search the Lantern and then make the Ripper, search the Izuna, set the X First Liberation because we got Perilia. And then, yeah, the Lantern revives back the Jokul, and then you get double searches, and then, you know, case of K9, whatever. And then at this point, we're going to be going for the Imperial Princess Kinquery, which is relevant if you are playing pure K9, but otherwise you don't really have the space to play this card in your extra deck. Honestly, it's really tight. But yeah, this is obviously going to bait an Imperm, because otherwise you can just, like, summon a monster on the opponent's field. Or at this point, we would go, like, summon Izuna, effect, we get Impermed, it's fine, activate case of K9, search the Lupus, special summon it, and then make the Paradise Smasher anyways. Yeah, now it's completely fine that we got Impermed. We're going to be summoning the Izuna again. We do have to get Impermed again, otherwise we just send the Lupus and then revive back and then activate case of K9 to search something. But if our opponent just keeps Imperming us very early, it's going to be really, really difficult to beat it. And that's the reason why a third K9 name might be the way to go. So our opponent can draw even more Imperms now, it changes nothing. So you can give like 5 draws to the opponent, unless, again, it's like a combination of like Imperm Nibiru. So again, Imperm on the Ripper and then Nibiru afterwards. It's not going to be enough, because now it can no longer be targeted by card effects, and yeah, those hand traps, it's too late to use them, and board breakers are not going to be able to deal with number 67 Paradise Smasher. So depending on the deck that you're playing, this could really just be checkmate at this point. So again, you cannot declare an attack, and you cannot activate monster effects until the end of the next turn. It is completely ridiculously broken. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this quick little video concerning number 67 Paradise Smasher. You guys let me know how you feel about this card. Do you think it should get banned on the next ban list? I mean, obviously, I think it should, right? I think it was a mistake for Konami to like not release the ban list before the new season, but again, it is what it is. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.